You have reached an important milestone in this course. After today's discussion, the foundational portion of this course is over, and we go right into the nuts and bolts of actual politicking, right? So first, like I said, we were setting up your mindset, and today is the last of those classes. And on that subject, we are talking about releasing the albatrosses in your life and why it's important to be selective of the 5 people you spend your most social time with. And that's our conversation today. Albatrosses. So when we first started this conversation and or this course, I said to you, to look at where you want to be 5 years from now and to look at the person next to you if you are already partnered, and are they ready for this? Do they even want this? Now, aside from just who you're partnered with, the 5 people that you spend the most social time with, or the most time with, period, are the 5 people you will become the most like. That is a common belief. It is true. You will hear this from every successful person on the planet. They will all tell you the same thing. You need to surround yourself with people that you would like to be like. Not surround yourself with people that are exactly where you are now. Surround yourself with people that exemplify your ideal of what you are trying to aspire to. It's a very different thing. So then you're going to say, well, what? That means I just stop talking to my friends? Like, what are you saying? No, not necessarily. I'm not saying to defriend people, certainly. But just understand that you will become who you spend the most time with. The top 5 specifically. This is scientifically proven. So when you think about the people you spend the most time with, what are they like? Doesn't mean they have to be politicians, but are they productive? Are they positive? Are they ambitious? Are they into self-improvement? Are they abundance thinkers or scarcity thinkers, like we talked about early in the course? What are they like? Are they good? Are they integral? Do you enjoy them? Or do you spend time with them because you always have, and that's the habit and that's what you're used to, and you'd seem like a jerk if all of a sudden you got busy? Like I said, I'm not asking you to not be friends with people, but sometimes you can just get busy, right? And then a little bit at a time, friendships move from in person to on the phone, and then from on the phone to social media, and, it's manageable from there. And sometimes you need to do that, and sometimes it will happen organically. The first major PR gig I ever got was with a global celebrity. This was not my gig. I was just doing support work in that campaign team. But this was a global celebrity in the middle of a massive scandal. So I got to spend 2 weeks in their home with them. That's how big the situation was, where we were all holed up in their home because their house was surrounded by paparazzi and we couldn't go anywhere. So anyway, the comms team just moved in during this big crisis. So I got to spend a lot of time with this person alone. And they said to me, you look like an ambitious young girl. If I can give you a word of advice, be prepared to lose some friends on your, scale up to fame. And I was like, well, I don't know. I've had the same friends since kindergarten. And at that point, I think I was 25, 26. I'm 26 and I still have all those same pals. And she says, yeah, and they'll always be your friends. I'm not, some of them, most of them maybe even. But, Daniela, you're going to change. And when your career either surpasses them or your lifestyle veers very far from what their lifestyle is like, when you stop getting weekends and you stop getting evenings to go out for coffee and you don't have time to meet for dinner, those things, like your life will change. And those people will slowly drift out of your life. So then the question becomes, who do you replace them with? And the tendency is always to replace them with people that are in the current circle where you are now, but then they're where you are, and then you both end up getting stuck there. Instead, you want to surround yourself with the people you're trying to become, because then you will grow, you will calibrate to their resonance. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a parasite or that you use people. I only want to be friends with people that can directly benefit me. I'm not saying that either. And I'm not saying to choose your friends based on the opportunities they give you. I'm asking you to choose your social circle based on how they resonate. You could be in politics and they can be in hospitality. But if you're both integral, positive, ambitious, abundance mindset people, that's what I'm talking about. And not someone trying to make it, but somebody that has made it. Them being, restaurateurs, they own 10 restaurants and are very successful is not going to help your political career at all, being friends with them, right? Because certainly a company can't endorse you, right? A company can't even donate to your campaign. But having the personality around you socially of someone who is successful, that has done it and is happy and well-adjusted and positive and integral, that is a good energy for you to be around. Not because you're going to capitalize on it, but because it's good energy to be around. And you need to surround yourself with good energy. I remember having a friend. There was a point in my life I was going through a really hard time. Very hard time. Probably one of the lowest points of my life. And I had a girlfriend that was going through the lowest points in her life. And we really, truly helped each other survive that time. The thing is that we also enabled each other in a lot of ways. So, you feel, I don't feel like it, you don't feel like it, so let's just both goof off today, and then we could tell each other that we needed the self-care because we're so tired from what we're going through, and we're going to give each other excuses. I don't feel like going to work today. I don't either. So let's stay home and eat cake, So we would be that for each other. And then life happened and separated us. And she had to move to the other end of the country. It was the best thing for us both. And both of our careers took off when we were physically separated. Because as long as we were together, we were enabling each other, quite literally. And with beautiful intentions. It was truly it's still a great friendship that thrives today. But at that time, us living as next door neighbors was not helping either of us. It wasn't until we were separated that our lives took off. And that was not with a fight, not with I can't be your friend anymore. Life moved her across the country. It was unavoidable. She had to do it. And it turned out to be the best thing ever for us both. Getting stuck in the story is a huge issue that will keep you stuck. And getting stuck around people that are stuck will keep you stuck. And then as soon as you do start to improve, so let's say your friend circle are all underachievers. And you end up being the one that rises to success. Well, what ends up happening is they judge you. Because one or two things have to happen. If they're purely content with their life and they're truly happy and they don't have any hang-ups about the choices they made, they will celebrate you. They will share all your stuff on social media. They'll be proud to be your friend. They will celebrate you every chance they get. If there's someone that knows that they didn't live up to their full potential and they have a hang up about that, what they're going to do is resent you. They will resent you because you're a constant reminder of everything they didn't do. And those are the ones that end up selling stories to the tabloids, by the way. So watch that. So if you're around people that are not productive or are not ambitious or are not positive, that will end up casting a negative shadow over all the good stuff you do because the people you're the closest to won't celebrate it. You've changed. You've changed. You've sold out. You're going to hear that. That's the language of losers. Losers use that kind of language. People that will never change will lose that kind of language. We're an evolving species. Not changing is not something to be proud of. So you'll be tempted to play small when you hang around people that are small. And that's especially true of who you choose to build a life with in terms of spouse. If you are very political, very social and outgoing and engaging, and your spouse is a miserable crab, that is going to hurt you. If they sabotage all the good things they do, that will hurt you. If they want to stay home and your job requires a lot of socialization, they will resent the job. They will resent you. So it's very important when you're going into public life that you go into it with family, with friends, with a spouse that is going to be part of that with you, that will support you and celebrate you, that want you to change, that want you to improve, that are changing themselves and improving right next to you. They're growing together. That's what you want. I'm walking into my second marriage right now. My first marriage lasted 13 years. And boy, did I try and make that thing work. I really, really tried. But my partner was an underachiever, hated politics, hated business, did not have a head for business at all, and lived in a completely different mental reality than I did. But at the time we met, we were in the same kind of space. We were struggling with the same issues in life. We had the same frustrations, and therefore we bonded on a pain level. We were another, let's enable each other situation happening all over again. And that's how he and I got together. But then I worked on my stuff. I've always been into self-improvement from the time I was very young. I was introduced to that whole concept, and it worked for me. I healed a lot of childhood trauma that way. I developed professionally this way, and it did good things for me. So I just always continued that, and he didn't. He was very much a stuck in the story type of person and decided to be a poster child for his limitations, as opposed to, instead of focusing on what I can't do, what can I do, what am I good at, and let's do it. And what ended up happening was he never stood in my way. Like, he never called me a sellout. He never, although he did accuse me publicly of being a member of the Illuminati once while we were divorcing. But, he never said, don't do the thing, don't go, whatever. Never stood in my way at work. As a matter of fact, he loved that I was a workaholic because we were growing apart. And as long as I was working and not home, he didn't have to deal with me and my disappointment. So it was actually, he encouraged me to do more. So I did. And I became a leader of industry. And then I became very political. And our worlds separated more and more and more. And then it was that he couldn't respect me because, he found the world I was in disgusting. And he couldn't relate to it. And I looked at him as if he was a weak loser. So I lost respect for him. And a little bit at a time, we were working so hard to make the marriage tolerable because that's what you do. You don't want to admit that something's not working, right? So we never fought. There was no fighting because I was never home to fight until I was. And then all of a sudden, every way that he wasn't living up to his potential became glaring to me. And it became glaring to him because my success was a reminder of everything he wasn't doing. And it all came to a head when I won the RBC Ruby Business Award. That was the end of my marriage, was winning that award. It was done. Within, I'd say, a few weeks, we were separated. And I remember the worst of the arguments happened when I was leaving to go get photographed to be in the paper for this award. I sobbed all the way. And then smiled with a big grin for the photograph, got back in the car and started crying again. And that marriage, it ended, and it was doomed. It was doomed. My ambition, his lack of ambition, there was no way that was going to continue. And at the time, I felt like it was a failure. Of course, you always do when a marriage, doesn't work out. Especially when it doesn't work out because of something that feels superficial, like career. So it's not that there was an affair or anything like that. It was, in my case, career. In his case, his lack of ambition led to other lifestyle things that just weren't good for him or for anybody. So what ended up happening was I left and I did the single thing for a while, which I did quite well. And then eventually I ended up finding someone that was very much like me. very ambitious, had big dreams, highly functioning, all of those wonderful things, was emotionally mature, all the stuff. And we had this synergy, not only in the present, but what we were growing towards and what we were moving towards. So when we found each other, nobody was stuck. We both improved. His skill set helped my business. My skill set helped his business. Suddenly, everything that was individual was us, and us grew out of that very quickly. And we're constantly growing and evolving together, and we're constantly pushing each other to be our absolute best for ourselves as well as for each other. What a different energy. What a different energy. And how much more fun is it? In the first marriage, I had to attend everything by myself, including award ceremonies. I'd be getting these big flashy awards, and I would bring my father-in-law as my plus one because, my husband didn't do the social thing. How fantastic was it when I started dating my soon-to-be husband, but when we were first dating, I remember we were both going through a really hectic time, and I had been invited to the Lieutenant Governor's Christmas party. And we had no way of making that meeting. There was no way I could attend that thing. And at the time, we were in a different city. Financially, we couldn't even make it work because we were both going through some stuff. And I remember him saying, Daniela, I did the math from the guest list, whatever. Only 0.04% of the population ever gets invited to the Lieutenant Governor's Christmas party. I don't care what we need to do. I don't care if we need to sleep in the car. You are not missing that party. This is going to be good for you. And he moved heaven and earth. He even rejigged very important meetings he had in order to make it so that we could attend a Christmas party. That's what you want. I have a candidate that I've been working with for years whose wife works as hard as him on the campaign trail. She knocks on more doors than he does. While he's busy doing debate prep or attending the things we need him to do, she's out knocking on doors. She works as hard as him on his job. There's a lady, this is your dream wife right here. There's a lady on Instagram called Political Wife. Go find her. Political Wife. Her entire life is in support of her husband's job. That's the kind of spouse you want. Do you want Oprah Winfrey's, what's his name, Feldman? I forget what his first name is. Whoever Oprah Winfrey's sort of husband is. You know what? You want that level of support when you're going to be a public figure. And you have to be careful that sometimes your spouse, where your ambitions collide. So it's one problem to have when you have a spouse that hates the role you're in or is uncomfortable with fame and you need to be famous. That's already a problem. But what happens when you have a spouse that's more famous than you are? That could also be a problem. Because at some point, whose job takes precedence? Because if they want to be a leader and they're looking for their supportive spouse, right? And they want to go on the book tour or whatever, and it's an election cycle for you, whose job takes precedence? Who watches the kids when one of your jobs requires, one of you to leave? Is it automatically the default that it's your spouse? How do they feel about that when they have their own ambitions? So when I'm saying to find someone that's ambitious, I'm not just saying anybody ambitious will do. I'm saying that when you find the ambitious group of potential spouses, pick the ones whose ambition is complementary to yours. The person I'm marrying now, we've kind of melded our businesses in the sense that my media company does all of their comms work. So he's my biggest client. He's become, anyway, my biggest client. And, we keep each other busy and we work together. So even though it's different companies, physically or legally, one complements and supports the other. So odds are if my fiance has to travel, I'm usually with him because I'm doing the comms for his work. It's complementary. I'm not giving up my job to support his job. His job supports my job. That works out. That's a good synergy. So you're looking for someone that shares your ambition. I want to see my fiance the next Elon Musk of his industry. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean, right? So my ambition complements what he's trying to do. We want the same thing. So it can't be just, my potential spouse is highly ambitious in entertainment industry and I'm highly ambitious in the political world. At some point, those worlds will collide in not the best way. So when I'm saying you have to find someone that shares the willingness to grow and change and everything else, keep in mind that it has to be complementary. You can't be competing against one another. And the same goes, with friends as well. You want everybody growing, you want everybody, but, in their own lane. That way you're never complicated. There's nothing worse when two friends want to run for the same position in office. That could get kind of awkward, very difficult. So it's nice to have a diversity of friends that are outside your political world. And I'm going to actually stress that you do that. Because, it's really hard to maintain friendships at the level we're at professionally when you're working 15, 20 hours a day sometimes, right? You don't have time for a social life. So what ends up happening is you spend most of your social time with other politicians or other strategists, people in that world. And then you start to confuse your colleagues and your clients for friends because every ounce of your social time is spent with those people. And then when you want to leave that world or your career pivots or whatever, then you have to change everything. You're not only changing jobs at this point or clientele or functions, but now you've lost your social circle because you were used to just socializing when you were doing politics. So you want a social circle where you could, turn yourself off, like you can turn your brain off, and that you guys can hang out for a night and talk about everything but politics, right? You get a good break because they're all doing different things and they don't care about politics as much as you do. But you want to make sure that they are ambitious, high-functioning, and achievers. You want to be around achievers and you want to be around people that have surpassed where you have gone in terms of level of success, not in terms of exact title, right? But in terms of level of success. Because you're trying to grow and evolve too, without being a parasite or using somebody. So you do that by getting the diversity and having a rich, complex social experience with people that you can learn from and, that give you an energetic benefit to be around, that aren't draining, stuck in a victim story where every time you get together, all you do is bitch about life. You don't want that. And you need to be willing to get busy for the people that are like that. Do you have time to waste an hour talking to someone, listening about their dog's latest antics or what their kids are up to when you really don't care, when you got shit to do? You know what I mean? So you're going to get to a point where you're very discerning of every minute of your time. So if you have that friend that constantly calls you to bitch about the very thing she refuses to do anything about, you stop having time for that. If you don't like it, change your life. I'm sick of the same cyclical story. You will be very discerning of how you spend every minute of your social time. Because the people you spend time with, if they're draining and you're getting no energetic benefit being from them, then they're just wasting your time. And like I said, when you're working 15, sometimes 20 hours a day, you don't have a minute to waste. And the social, quiet self time you get is so rare that you become very jealous of it. And you will only share it with your favorite people, or you would just rather not share it alone at all and be alone, because at least you're tired and you can finally get a half minute's peace instead of wasting it with someone that you're just internally rolling your eyes at anyway. So now's the time to start getting really honest about your social circle, about your spouse, about your social life. And when you are looking for a potential partner or spouse, be very, very discerning. When you're making new friends and deciding who you're going to say yes to for that cup of coffee or that tennis game, be very discerning. And it's okay to be discerning. So we'll end it with the most important statement of this entire class. You will become the 5 people you spend the most time with. Memorize that.